Okay, so we're going to be speculating a little bit. We're going to be talking about the X-Men, or I guess it's not even called the X-Men. It's called the Mutants. It's apparently a movie that Disney is making. You know, they're trying to bring up all the Marvel stuff. For the longest time, they've had the Avengers. That's gone and dead now. At least for me, I think, you know, the Marvel movies, at least when it comes to the Avengers, stuff like that, for the most part, the mojo and everything's kind of lost it with me. And, you know, the only movies I've liked so far, the newest Spider-Man. I haven't even seen the newest Thor. Just try to watch Doctor Strange. It's not bad, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. It just, for the overall, it's just been kind of like, yeah, you know, I haven't really been excited for Marvel films from Disney ever since pretty much Endgame. Well, apparently reports are coming out that a Mutants, called The Mutants, is being filmed right now for, you know, later on being added into the MCU. Well, one of the apparently rumors is that they're removing the name X-Men from it. That's why they're just calling it the Mutants. Now, we are going to be speculating. We're just going to be talking about it. I'm going to give you guys my opinion about it. I think it's really stupid that we've come to this point now where just every little thing, literally the last video I just made was talking about how people were offended by teabagging and shooting dead bodies in video games, to where now apparently X-Men or just the word men is offensive. It's not inclusive. It's other things where we've been going on for millennia now, or just decades, centuries, where we just represent the mankind, mankind, men, women. It hasn't been something that's been controversial, but then all of a sudden now you have X-Men, a name that surrounds an entire group of superheroes with different, you know, abilities and whatnot, but also the surrounding message of, you know, trying to end bigotry, which was the main focus of X-Men when it first, you know, was developed, you know, several decades ago. But now it could be possible where X-Men is completely removed and it's just called the Mutants. We'll talk about it. I'll give you guys my opinion about it, but I wanted to first get into this. This is the reason why I wanted to make the video, because my boy, It's a Gundam, tweeted this out, and I eventually tweeted something, but he said, only Disney would drop the iconic name, the X-Men. Now, again, like I said, he posted something I looked up to, we'll talk about it here in a second, but the Mutants film reportedly in the works at Marvel. Which I went ahead and just posted, it's X-Ma'am from the It's a Ma'am little meme. But again, it's so goofy that we are at this point right now where apparently X-Men is offensive. It's not like the funny thing is about X-Men is that it's very inclusive to everyone. I mean, mankind has the word man in it, but mankind, if you look at the definition from Merriam-Webster, mankind, the human race, the totality of human beings. That's what mankind is. And that is what, when Stan Lee was making the X-Men, they were like, hey, you know what? Mankind, let me just put the X in there because they're mutants, because they're extraordinary. And I'm not understanding why all of a sudden we are just so offended by that. And it's crazy to know that the word X-Men is including everybody from different races, different sexes, different ethnicities, and different mutant abilities, all surrounding into this one group called X-Men that, again, Stan Lee was trying to take a little bit of, you know, I guess symbolism when it comes to humankind, Homo sapiens. I mean, if you watch the X-Men movies back in the early 2000s, which were great films, except for, you know, maybe Last Stand, a couple of them, but more or less they were really great movies. But again, the central focus of it was that, yeah, there were two groups. Bigotry was going on with the human race. They were not accepting mutants. And the overall storyline of being able to kind of overcome your bigotry and accepting people is a great message. And even in X-Men, the laundry list of different things they talk about, from racism to anti-Semitism and so many more stuff throughout the comics, it all encompasses around the X-Men. Like there's no one side or the other that's focused on. And again, it's a derivative. It's brought over by mankind. It is just ridiculous. So, no, so why am I talking about this? Why am I mentioning? Well, like I said, Mutants is going to be a film that's being made, or at the works is what this says over at Marvel. But some people are speculating, including myself, that the X-Men is going to be just a dying thing. Like they're not going to be called X-Men anymore, because all the way back in 2019, this is 3 years ago, X-Men outdated, says Marvel's studio producer. Like I said, this is 3 years ago, but the same idea apparently is coming across 3 years later, with them wanting to call this the Mutants. Now, again, speculation. X-Men might come back. This is just me just kind of pitching an idea, talking about how I'm feeling about this entire thing. But I do feel it's very odd, though, that 3 years ago, that an X-Men producer said, my God, X-Men? Men? That is outdated. It's just not inclusive enough, everyone. If you just really understood what X-Men meant and what was circuming around X-Men. But yeah, apparently because it has the word men in it, it is not inclusive enough for everyone. So we'll get into this article here in a second, but I did want to read this. So, according to Deadline, outlining fans are expecting the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con, mentioning the handful of films in the works: Fantastic Four, Blade, Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as the Marvels, and a film called The Mutants. Now, it doesn't actually say in here if it's going to be having any of the iconic mutants. So currently it's unknown exactly whether this film is going to be featuring iconic mutant groups, the X-Men, or perhaps just introducing the idea or concept of mutants in the world of the MCU. Now, again, this is one thing that, yes, they are trying to bring in, the X-Men and whatnot, mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But is that what they're going to be called? Like, even in this, it says, it doesn't know if X-Men, the group, is going to be brought into the MCU, or they're just going to be called mutants. I mean, for the longest time, there have been, different abilities out there with, the Scarlet Witch, as well as her brother and stuff like that were related to even Magneto in X-Men and stuff like that. They were considered, enhanced humans or whatever it is. But again, it's one thing that's been very interesting to see throughout this article, talking about how this is going to be the first time that the MCU is going to be bringing in mutants, and kind of talking about exactly what could be the mutants. Could they be bringing in Wolverine? Who's going to be playing Cyclops, Colossus, Juggernaut? I don't know. Some of the iconic, actual villains and heroes throughout X-Men, are they going to be brought in? And is even X-Men as the name going to be brought in at all? Don't know yet, but again, it's very interesting to see that something that you would want to be bringing in. Like, X-Men has a huge draw for fans, that were little kids and enjoyed the comic books, that enjoyed some of the, movies back in the early 2000s, even in 2010s with, the X-Men reboots and stuff like that. There are fans out there, and X-Men, as just the name of it, is a big draw for people. Even, thinking back all the way to the X-Men animated cartoon, which was amazing back, in the 90s. X-Men has a big draw in for fans and people that love, love mutants, love the Marvel X-Men stuff. So just this being called mutants, it just seems very odd, and it doesn't feel like it has the same draw that X-Men would have. So we get into this article of saying how X-Men is outdated, says this Marvel producer. So when asked about this, I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call it X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in the X-Men group, so I think it's outdated. I don't know where it's going to go. We'll see. They just now have to join. They just now have joined. They actually have a movie coming out very soon, which is under the banner as their last film. So we'll see, what time it will tell, or what time will tell. So this is the funny thing is that even in this interview, that X-Men is a bad word, from Victoria, who apparently was a Marvel producer. Again, they're bringing this stuff in. It's saying it's outdated. There's female superheroes in the X-Men, and it's not inclusive enough. Again, we're going off of mankind. Humankind is what they want to call it. I know it's kind of common the two, but mankind is what it's originally brought in, and it talks about the human race. That's the whole reason why it's called X-Men. You have mankind, you have the X-Men, you have the human race, and the mutants and X-Men. So it's just very odd to see that. Now I understand, X-Men is a group in, Marvel and stuff like that when it comes to the mutants. But again, it's just overall encompassing of the amount of people that are in this group just called X-Men. it's just odd. It truly is odd to see that this article is 3 years old talking about it. You know, Victoria says obviously it doesn't like the word X-Men just because it has the word men in it. And again, I don't know why. And like, my gosh, we've gone on for so long throughout centuries, millennia of just apparently now men, women, very offensive, hurt some feelings. And it's just like, what the hell is going on? Again, it kind of goes into the last video of how weak we are, how sensitive we are when it just comes to the point where it's like, look, mankind is all encompassing of all of us. That's just the word that was come up with. They came up with was mankind, the human race. So anyway, last thing I want to talk about is this. You know, X-Men, again, has been around for, I mean, since the 60s. You know, it started out in the 60s. It actually ended, you know, later on in the 60s just because it was not selling very well. But it got brought back in the 70s. And it did very, very well. Again, X-Men did so well after it got re-released in the 70s. I mean, in the 90s, I felt like that was the peak. You had comic books. You had the amazing X-Men animated series. And then it kind of just went off from there. Amazing video games. Oh my gosh, if you were a kid back in the day, going to a Walmart or going to arcade and having the 6-player arcade X-Men game, oh my god, like what a fan. You know, what a day to be alive. You're to be alive to play X-Men and consume a lot of X-Men content, whether it's video games, movies, TV shows, and stuff like that. Lastly, let's get into this. Let's talk about this. So this is on Wikipedia, so if you want to check it out, you're more than happy to get on here and type in X-Men and kind of get the history of it, go into the different articles and stuff like that, or different you know, times that they did different comic books and stuff like that. Well, this gets into this, reflecting social issues. So again, X-Men came out several decades ago, but talked about different bigotries that were happening throughout the world, whether it's racism, anti-Semitism, diversity, LGBT. I mean, that's even stuff in here. So there's different things that X-Men has been used for that's been able to kind of, you know, talk about social issues, current day issues that, again, back, you know, several decades ago was not a huge big deal and didn't offend anybody just because it's called X-Men. But apparently now it's offensive. You can't say men. It's offensive. It hurts people's feelings. But it's just funny to know that back in the day, I mean, and currently with X-Men, you know, as a comic book, as a series, I mean, they talked about really, you know, issues that, you know, we're trying to end bigotry. But for some reason now, the most bigoted thing that you could do is call them X-Men. Call them mutants, apparently, now. But the mortal sin you could do now is call them X-Men, because apparently it offends anybody. I don't know, man. I really don't. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys my opinion about it. I think it's goofy. I think it's ridiculous. Again, this is all speculation. I have no idea. They might actually introduce the X-Men, and I might just be blowing smoke, just kind of just talking about how it's odd to see that the mutants are announced and it's in the works at Marvel, but it's not called the X-Men. Again, like I said as well, when it comes to sales numbers, when it comes to draw numbers, getting people invested, getting people to draw in and watch their iconic superheroes when it comes to Wolverine, Professor X, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Rogue, Colossus, Juggernaut, Magneto, all these different mutants, it's all encompassing under X-Men because that's a big draw. That's a name that people know. Is the mutants going to be able to do that? Is the mutants going to be able to draw in the big numbers? Or is it even going to introduce the X-Men? Who knows? But for some reason, some apparent Marvel producers find that the word men is offensive, and now we have the mutants. So anyway, let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the mutants? What do you guys think about apparently X-Men being outdated? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please have a great rest of the day. Look forward to talking to you guys all next time.